Hi guys! Welcome to this video. This is my March reading wrap-up, so I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in March, and we're just gonna talk about them, and it's gonna be great. I really hate opening videos. This sucks. Okay, remember how I read 8 books in February, and that was like a lot? And I never thought I'd be able to outdo that. Well, I did. I read 9 books this month. Let me just show them to you. So these are all the books I read in 1 month. 9 of them. This is insane. So let's talk about the first book that I read this month, which was The Witch Doesn't Burn in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is a collection of poems, and this is the second in a poetry series, I guess. The first one I read last year, and that one was called The Princess Saves Herself in This One, and I truly loved it. And so I was really excited to hear that she came out with a second one, and she is also coming out with a third one next year. So excited for that. So her poems still had the same theme as the first one, which are basically about like feminism, abuse, menstruation, eating disorders, death, rape, like all that stuff. But the first one mainly focused on themes of like princesses and queens and whatever. But this one mainly centered around witches and magic, obviously because that's what the title says. So I really did love this collection of poems. This is definitely the kind of book that you read when you feel like you're doubting yourself or you're feeling powerless. Like, this will definitely pick you right back up and make you feel strong. It's compelling and powerful. However, I did find a lot of the poems to be pretty repetitive. So that's mainly my one critique about it. But I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read, Harry Potter and the Sorcerers Stone. This is not a reread for me. I am actually the kind of person who did not read Harry Potter books as a child, unfortunately. But I'm finally reading them now, and I'm so happy I am because I loved every minute of this book. So I have watched the Harry Potter movies a ton, and I love them so much. And so I'm so happy that I'm finally reading the series and getting to know more about the series and the characters, you know, that weren't put into the movies. I got of course, the newer paperback editions with these beautiful illustrated covers, and the backs are beautifully illustrated, and the spines, when put together, create the Hogwarts school, and I just really love these editions of the books. This was a phenomenal book, and I see why everybody loves this book. And it's also, I feel like, since I'm not reading it as a kid, this is one of those books where you don't have to be a kid to read them to love them. Like, anyone at any age can love these books. I don't feel like I really need to explain the premise of Harry Potter. I feel like we all get what it is. But just in case, this is about a boy named Harry Potter who finds out he's a wizard, and a famous wizard at that. So he goes to the school called Hogwarts, School for Witchcraft and Wizardry, and he kind of learns about his past, but he also learns about this guy named Voldemort who tried to kill him as a baby but was unsuccessful, and so he might be trying to come back now and kill Harry. The writing is great, and the story and the world is just so immersive and so compelling. And since this is the first book, this book was mainly a lot of world building, because she had a whole world to create and build. And so I felt like most of this was world building, but she still kept it so interesting and compelling to read that I was okay with all of the world building. Truly, truly loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read completed my read one nonfiction book a month goal that I have this year, and that book is Ive Got This Round by Mamrie Hart. I absolutely love Mamrie Hart. I love her YouTube videos. I loved her other book that she wrote called You Deserve a Drink. And this book, of course, was no surprise. It was hysterical and full of drinking and shenanigans, and I enjoyed every second of it. This book kind of mainly dealt with stories and things that happened when she's in her 30s, mainly focusing on just like one specific year. But this, oh my god, I love Mamrie Hart's voice. It's just very hilarious writing, hilarious stories, and very entertaining. I really wish I could like join in on the hijinks that she does, or maybe just even create my own hijinks that I could write stories about, because I have none. Also, I really just love the picture on the cover and the spine too. Like, I really enjoyed the look of this book. I really liked it, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I had been wanting to read this book actually for a very long time, but it wasn't until this month, when of course the movie came out this month, that it pushed me to read it now, because I like to read the books before seeing the movies. This book was so freaking fun. So this book takes place in the year 2044, and in this day and age, everyone pretty much escapes the real world and goes into like a VR type world, and it's called the Oasis, and this guy James Halliday created the Oasis. And when James Halliday died, he planted an Easter egg in the Oasis, and whoever can get to the Easter egg wins all of his money, and he gets to become in charge of the Oasis. He had hidden 3 keys within the game, and once you get all 3 keys and get past all 3 gates, you will find the egg, and voila. But we mainly follow Wade Watts, who has been searching for the keys and the egg, just like everyone else, for the past like 5 years. And he eventually finds the first key, and then this adventure happens, and some romance happens, and there's like a government conspiracy thing trying to get after him because they want the key, not some like random person. It's super fun, super fast paced, and a lot of like high action. It's, oh my god, what a ride. I was just so engaged reading this. It's just really wonderful writing. I have to say, this was one of those books I physically could not put down. Especially like the end. I literally sat on my bed and read this for 4 hours straight, because I was like, I need to know how this ends. I need to know what's happening. I just physically couldn't put this book down. It was so fun. The characters and the world are just so rich and written so well. If you were a kid growing up in the 80s, this is definitely for you, because it's going to be very nostalgic for you. There's a lot of like 80s and a few 70s geeky references, like a lot of like 80s movies, 80s video games, stuff like that. So a lot of the references I didn't really quite get, but it didn't pull me too much out of the story, which is very good. But anyway, yeah, so I truly love this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is Service by David Monster. David is actually a friend of mine, and I read one of his other books last year called Parallel Lines, and so he lent me Service so I could review it for him. I did have a few issues with it, but I did very much enjoy it. This story follows George and Stephen and their romance in a boarding school. So yeah, it's just like a gay romance. I absolutely really loved the romance, and I loved the story. I thought it was very interesting to read, and I don't know, I just really liked it. But I did have issues with the writing. The writing was just like okay. It kind of kept changing format back and forth from like first person to third person, from like his point of view to narrator's point of view, and it kind of got a little, it took some time to get used to, but that was just weird how it like kept going back and forth between perspectives and formats of writing it too. There also really wasn't much of a conflict. I don't know, there was like a little bit of conflict, but it wasn't anything that I was too worried about, to be honest. I also have no idea what the title has to do with the story or the book. I don't know what service means. But other than that, I enjoyed it, so I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the second in the Harry Potter series. And in this one, we follow Harry on his second year of school, which involves flying cars, a very angry tree, and a chamber with, I don't want to say what's in the chamber, but what's inside the chamber made a lot of students petrified. So this was another really great, fun Harry Potter book. I definitely think I liked the first one better than this one, but that doesn't mean I didn't hate this one at all. This is just such a really great world to escape to, and it's really easy to just fly through these books. I mean, I don't really know what else I can say about it, so it's 5 out of 5 stars. It was great. The next book I read was Saga Volume 4, the 4th volume in the Saga graphic novel series. I've explained the premise of this multiple times, but this is a very action, adventure, sci-fi, Romeo and Juliet type story. And this, I think, has so far been my least favorite in the series. I'm starting to kind of like lose interest, but I'm just hoping it gets better. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I just felt like there wasn't really as much action and adventure as there usually is, and it just kind of felt more mundane than the others. We just spent way too much time in Robotville for me. Like, my least favorite part of the story is Robotville, and that's where we mainly were in this book. It does seem to be like trying to set up for some really exciting developments for the next couple of volumes. So I'm hoping that that's true, so I will just continue to power through it, but if it doesn't seem to pique my interest anymore, then I might just get rid of it. I still very much enjoyed it, but I just hope it gets better. 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was the Book of the Month pick that I picked, and that was The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. So now everyone has been loving this book and giving it such rave reviews, but I didn't really like it. To be honest, I think this is my most disappointing read of the month. In this book we follow Lee, who is in high school, and her mom suffered from depression and then committed suicide, and so this is her dealing with grief, but also going to visit her grandparents in Taiwan, who she never met, and uncovering like family secrets, but also dealing with the grief and the guilt that she feels about her mom's death. But with this book, she does not believe that her mom is dead. She believes that her mom has turned into a bird, and she sees the bird wherever she goes. So there's a lot of like going back in the past, and there's actually a good amount of magical realism in it too. Let's first talk about the things that I liked about it though. I liked the themes of the depression, the suicide, and the grief, and I thought that they were handled very well. I also really liked learning about Taiwanese culture. I do have a friend that is in Taiwan right now, and it's really fun to learn about what he might be experiencing over there, and just seeing the culture is just really fascinating. And I think the title works perfectly with the story. Obviously, when I first read this title, it didn't make any sense to me. So if the title is, you're like, what kind of a title is that? It honestly does make sense with the story, because the writing has a lot of colors referencing emotions, or colors just describing the emotions that she's feeling. And this is the color of after, so the color of what it's like after her mom's death. So yeah, so the title I think is a perfect title for the book, but honestly, the writing I did not like. And that's the thing that everyone seems to love about it, is the writing, but I could not stand the writing. It was so boring and way too long. It literally took me forever to read this book. I enjoyed the colors describing the emotions in the book, but I just felt like there were way too many of them, and it just got like really annoying. It was just so slow paced, and I never really felt like I connected with the characters. Like, I didn't really care too much about them, unfortunately. And the magical realism in this book was just way too weird for me. I really wanted to like this book, but I was unfortunately disappointed, but I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read, the 9th book I read, was Come Back to Me by Mila Gray. This book was recommended to me by my cousin Gemma, and I really liked this book a lot. In this book we follow Kit and Jessa. Jessa is from a military family. Her dad is like big shot in the military, and her brother is in the military. And Kit is in the military as well. He is really good friends with her brother Riley, and they kind of start this romance that they know her brother and her dad, especially her dad, will not like. So they keep it a secret, but their romance is just so freaking beautiful. And of course, since we're dealing with military, someone does die. It is not much of a spoiler because it happens literally in the prologue. We know someone is going to die. It's either Kit or her brother Riley. I'm not saying who. This was so much more than I expected it to be. This was so romantic, so sexy. Like, I literally could not read this in public. It was just so steamy. And it was also so emotional. And the writing was just so much better than I expected it to be too. I got so lost in the story, just completely got rid of the outside world and just felt so compelled with this writing and the story. And I mean, the writing also too would like make me physically like feel my heart pounding and just like physically gasp at times. It made me feel a lot of things. I truly loved the characters and the romance was just so great. It felt so real and so beautiful. I have never felt so connected to a romance in a book before, and it just, it took my breath away. It's definitely the kind of romance that just stays with you. And I mean, there are definitely a couple things that I could like easily like nitpick at, just like little tiny things to nitpick, but to be honest, I don't even care about those because I just enjoyed myself so much reading this book. But I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And those are the books that I read this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please go also check out the movie wrap up for this month, as well as just the overall wrap up of the month of March. And I hope you guys come back for more videos later. Bye!